They were the couple that made everyone believe in love again. You know the type, the couple that seemingly had it all. The kind of relationship that had everyone on TikTok wishing for their own version of perfection. Emma and Lucas shared their lives in front of millions, giving the world a window into their love story. Every day, they posted something new. An impromptu dance in their living room, cute pranks that had them laughing uncontrollably, and heartfelt captions about how lucky they were to have found each other. It was all so perfect, so ideal. There was no hint of darkness, no sign of strain. Their followers watched with admiration, believing that Emma and Lucas were truly living the dream. But the reality of their relationship was far from what they portrayed online. Behind every perfectly staged moment, there were cracks. Cracks no one could see from the outside. Cracks that would soon spiral into something far darker than anyone could have imagined. And then, without warning, everything changed. One day, their regular posts stopped. The videos, the updates, the smiles, they all disappeared. Fans were confused, concerned, some even panicked. Had they taken a break? Gone on a trip? Did something happen to their account? But as the days turned into weeks, the silence grew louder. The followers who had been with them from the beginning began to worry. Their TikTok family, so used to seeing Emma and Lucas in their element, were now left in the dark. And then the news came, the kind of news no one wanted to hear. Emma was dead. The couple that had once been the face of perfect love was now at the center of a tragic, devastating mystery. It wasn't supposed to be like this. This wasn't supposed to happen to them. Emma and Lucas were supposed to be the couple who made it. The ones who proved that true love exists in the most real, unfiltered way. But that perfect image? It wasn't real. It never was. Was their relationship always doomed? Was their seemingly fairy tale love story hiding a much darker truth? Or had something happened, something twisted, that led to this unimaginable end? Their fans, their friends, their families, all of them were left with one haunting question. What went wrong? The question echoed in the minds of everyone who had followed their story, and it still lingers today. The mystery deepens, but the answer is chilling. Because sometimes, when something looks too perfect, it's hiding something far more dangerous. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means the world to us, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you. Meet Emma and Lucas, the couple that everyone on TikTok couldn't stop talking about. With millions of followers, they seemed like the perfect duo, their relationship a dream that so many admired and envied. Each post they made on TikTok was an invitation into their lives, and millions eagerly accepted, believing that the love they shared was something truly magical. Emma, a bright, bubbly, and charismatic young woman, quickly became one of the platform's most beloved influencers. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with her laugh, the one who always seemed to know exactly what to say or do. Lucas, her boyfriend, was her perfect counterpart. Handsome, athletic, with an easygoing personality that paired seamlessly with Emma's energy. Together, they were a force, effortlessly charming, impossibly attractive, and living a life everyone wanted. Their TikTok videos were a mix of quirky dances, hilarious pranks, and those sweet, candid moments that made their followers feel like they were a part of their relationship. They shared more than just trends. They shared their love with the world, and their followers loved it. Emma and Lucas were the embodiment of relationship goals. Fans watched them go on romantic getaways to dreamy destinations, showing off their love in scenic backdrops. They filmed themselves cooking dinner together, laughing at silly inside jokes, or simply lounging on the couch, making everyone believe that this was what true love looked like. But what their millions of fans didn't know was that behind every smile-filled post, behind every heartfelt caption, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. The filtered life they portrayed was just that, filtered, and no one knew the full truth of what was happening behind the scenes. Emma's journey to fame had started out like so many other influencers. A passion for creativity, a desire to share her life, and a growing online presence. She had always been into photography and social media, but it wasn't until she met Lucas that everything took off. The two had been introduced by mutual friends at a party, and sparks flew immediately. Their chemistry was undeniable. What started as a casual friendship quickly blossomed into a romance. But it wasn't just the love that made their relationship stand out. It was how perfectly they complemented each other. Lucas, who had been more of a behind-the-scenes type, was quickly pulled into the world of social media by Emma. He'd never been one to enjoy the spotlight, but Emma's infectious energy and the excitement of her growing online following made it hard for him to resist. Together, they started creating content, a bit of everything, from funny skits to heartwarming couple moments, and they quickly became viral sensations. Their chemistry on camera was electric. What had started as a small account gradually grew into one of the most followed TikTok couples in the world. They were invited to brand partnerships, got sponsored for trips, and even launched their own merchandise line. What had begun as an organic expression of their relationship soon turned into a full-fledged business, and the pressure of keeping up with that success began to take its toll. But it didn't show, at least not on camera. To the outside world, Emma and Lucas had it all. Everything was perfect. Their TikTok feed was like a well-edited movie, full of spontaneous adventures, cozy nights at home, and all the things that made their fans swoon. The world saw a couple who were madly in love and genuinely happy. They shared their vacations in exotic places, beach resorts in Hawaii, snowboarding in the Alps, and romantic getaways in cozy log cabins, always with glowing smiles and synchronized poses. Every post painted a picture of ideal love and carefree joy. Their fans began to see them as the perfect example of a relationship built on mutual respect, laughter, and undeniable chemistry. Hashtag couple goals became the hashtag of the year, as their followers flooded their posts with comments about how they wished they could have a love like theirs. But what they didn't see, what no one could possibly know, was the dark side of their picture-perfect lives. The cracks in the facade were there. They were just hidden beneath the surface. It wasn't obvious at first. To their fans, Emma and Lucas were living the dream. But for those close to them, there were subtle signs that things were starting to unravel. Emma and Lucas's relationship was intense from the very beginning. They fought fiercely, their passion spilling over into arguments that could sometimes last for hours. They'd make up just as quickly, their emotional swings as volatile as they were captivating. At first, it was just seen as the kind of fiery chemistry that came with being in a young, passionate relationship. But as their fame grew, so did the pressure. Emma's TikTok career flourished, but with that came an overwhelming amount of attention. New followers, new expectations, and new demands that neither of them were truly prepared for. While Emma loved the attention and thrived in the limelight, Lucas started to change. He became more possessive, more controlling. As Emma's follower count surged, Lucas's jealousy also grew. He started checking her phone, questioning her about every comment, every direct message. His trust issues began to eat away at their relationship. Started small. He would make little comments about the way certain fans looked at her, or the attention she received when they went out in public. He'd tell her to spend less time on her phone, to avoid posting pictures with certain people. Emma, who had always been open and carefree with her fans, began to feel suffocated. But she kept it to herself. After all, everything appeared perfect on TikTok, and that's what mattered most. To the world, their love was pure, and they were living the dream. However, those closest to them started noticing the subtle changes in their behavior. Emma's friends remarked that she wasn't as bubbly as she used to be. She seemed quieter, more distant. Lucas was increasingly becoming frustrated when she wanted to go out with friends, keeping her home more and more. And when they weren't fighting, the silence was thick. The love that once felt effortless now seemed strained, like a mask slipping off. And then, there were the cryptic posts. Emma, in rare moments of vulnerability, would post quotes about heartbreak, about betrayal, or about feeling lost. It was always subtle, but her followers couldn't help but notice the undercurrent of sadness that ran through her usually upbeat feed. Some fans began to ask if everything was okay, but Emma brushed it off with a smile, replying that life was great, and that she was just feeling a bit emotional. The cracks deepened, but no one saw the storm brewing behind the smile-filled videos and the heartwarming captions. Fans were too invested in the fairy tale. They couldn't believe that the love they admired could ever be anything but perfect. Then came the first sign that something wasn't right. At first, it was barely noticeable, just a fleeting moment, an offhand detail that didn't seem important at the time. Fans continued to follow Emma and Lucas, enamored by their relationship and the perfection they presented online. But something was changing beneath the surface, and it all started with a single, seemingly innocent shift in their behavior. It all started with a cryptic post. Emma, in one of her rare moments of vulnerability, shared an image on her Instagram stories. It was a dark photo, one that wasn't typical of her usual brightly lit, joyful posts. It was a close-up of her face, eyes slightly downcast, a somber look on her face that sent an unexpected chill to her followers. The caption read, "Sometimes you think you've found the one, but maybe it's just the calm before the storm." For a moment, it lingered on her story, unnoticed by most. But then, as quickly as it appeared, the post vanished. Fans who had seen it began questioning if they had imagined it. Emma hadn't mentioned anything else about it, and there was no explanation. It was as if it had never existed. That cryptic moment might have slipped under the radar, but it planted a seed of doubt in some minds. Fans started wondering if something was wrong. They assumed it could have been a fleeting thought, a moment of introspection, or just one of those posts people share when they're feeling overwhelmed. But those who knew Emma best could sense that this wasn't just a passing moment. It felt like something deeper, something unspoken, bubbling beneath the surface. And then it happened. After months of regular posting, Emma and Lucas suddenly went silent. For days, there were no TikTok dances, no heartwarming moments, no behind-the-scenes snippets of their lives. Fans waited, eagerly anticipating their next video, their next post, but nothing came. It wasn't like them. Their followers, who had come to expect daily content from the couple, began to grow concerned. Fans flooded their comments, asking, "Are you guys okay? Where's the next video?" But there were no responses, no explanation. The couple, who had once been so connected to their audience, were now distant, as if they had vanished entirely from the digital world. To make matters worse, Lucas, who had always been the more quiet and reserved one, made a vague post on his own social media accounts, a simple photo of a sunset with the words, "Sometimes you need to step back and take a break to clear your mind." But what did it all mean? Fans wondered if they were just taking a break, dealing with burnout, or if there was something more serious going on. The real turning point came when, a few weeks later, Emma and Lucas reappeared on social media, but not in the way anyone expected. They went live on TikTok one evening, something they had done countless times before. But this time, the energy was off. At first, everything seemed normal. They laughed, joked, and interacted with their fans. But as the live stream progressed, tensions began to bubble up. A comment from a fan, a simple, innocent question, seemed to set Lucas off. He snapped. It wasn't the first time, but it was the first time anyone had seen this side of him on camera. Emma, caught off guard by his response, laughed it off at first, attempting to smooth over the situation with a quick joke. But Lucas wasn't having it. He became defensive, his voice rising. The playful atmosphere from earlier was gone, replaced with something colder, sharper. "Do you have a problem with me, or something?" Lucas's voice trembled, but his words were laced with an edge that felt uncomfortably real. Emma froze, visibly stunned by the sudden shift in energy. She tried to recover, her eyes darting toward the camera, but the tension was undeniable. For the first time, their fans saw cracks in the perfect persona they had built. "Guys, we're fine," Emma said, her voice faltering. "We're just a little off tonight. Everything's good." But as she spoke, her smile didn't reach her eyes, and Lucas's frustration was palpable. The uncomfortable silence that followed felt like an eternity. Fans, some of them loyal followers for months, began to comment in real time. "Are you two okay? What's going on?" The argument quickly ended, with Emma awkwardly ending the live stream. They both promised everything was fine, but their body language spoke volumes. Lucas seemed tense, his jaw clenched, and Emma, who was always so animated, seemed to shrink into herself. The live stream ended abruptly, and neither of them posted again for days. This public argument marked a turning point. Fans began to speculate about what was really going on. Was this just a spat between two people who were overwhelmed by the pressures of fame? Or was there something more sinister at play? In the days that followed, Emma posted a series of photos and stories that seemed designed to reassure her fans. She shared selfies in bright sunlight, captioned with words like healing and love, trying to convince everyone that things were fine. But the underlying tension was still there. The final warning came in a video posted on TikTok, her last. In this video, Emma and Lucas sat together on their couch, smiling, but something was off. It wasn't their usual joyful selves. The smile on Emma's face felt strained, as if she was forcing it, and Lucas, sitting beside her, kept glancing away from the camera, his eyes darting nervously. They tried to put on a show, as they always did, dancing to a trending song, laughing together, but the cracks were so clear now. The video, which had once been lighthearted, now seemed like an eerie performance, an attempt to convince the world that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. Lucas's behavior had become more erratic in the days leading up to Emma's death. He would post messages on social media, almost as if he was speaking to someone directly, but without naming names. Some people think they can play games with me, one message read, but they'll never win. I'll make sure of that. The truth, however, was that no one knew how bad things had truly gotten. Fans, family, and friends were blinded by the image the couple had so carefully curated. The tension, the fights, the possessiveness. All of it had been carefully hidden behind the filters. The warning signs were subtle, but in hindsight, they were unmistakable. And yet, no one saw them in time to stop the inevitable. As Emma's last video played, the likes, comments, and shares rolled in. No one knew that it would be the last time they saw her. Fans flooded her page with support, unaware of the horror that was unfolding behind closed doors. The mystery of what happened to her would remain unsolved for a while longer, as everything seemed to slip further into darkness. The news hit like a shockwave, a punch to the gut that left their fans reeling. The couple who had once captivated millions, the influencers who had built a brand on love and happiness, were now embroiled in a real-life tragedy that no one saw coming. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when the first news alert broke. A local news station in their area, a city they once called home, reported that Emma had been found dead. The announcement sent ripples of confusion and disbelief across social media. Her fans, still in shock, couldn't process the information. "Is this real?" One comment read. "She's gone? What happened?" But the news didn't stop there. It was just the beginning of a story that no one, not even the closest friends of Emma and Lucas, had been prepared for. The police had arrived at Emma and Lucas's apartment after receiving a frantic call from a neighbor. The neighbor reported hearing loud yelling and crashing sounds coming from their unit the night before, but no one thought much of it until the situation escalated. When officers arrived, they found Lucas disoriented, covered in cuts and bruises, and visibly shaken. Emma, however, was found lifeless on the floor, her body bearing signs of a violent struggle. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs that anyone had broken into the apartment. Everything in the apartment appeared as it should, except for Emma's body and the chaos in the aftermath of what had occurred. The news quickly spread across social media. Emma, the bright, loving influencer everyone had adored, was gone. And Lucas? He was the only one left, but his story didn't add up. At first, it seemed like an open and shut case. Emma had died as a result of a violent confrontation, and Lucas, the only other person present, was the obvious suspect. But as investigators delved deeper into the case, they began to uncover a web of contradictions and troubling inconsistencies that raised more questions than answers. Lucas was questioned at length by the authorities, but his story kept changing. At first, he claimed that Emma had been in a violent mood the night before, that she had attacked him, and that he was only defending himself. But there were gaps in his version of events that didn't make sense. His explanation didn't match the evidence at the scene, and his demeanor, while initially distraught, seemed increasingly evasive as the questions piled up. Meanwhile, Friends and family who had once celebrated Emma and Lucas's relationship were now struggling to reconcile the couple they had known with the grim reality they were facing. Emma's friends described her as always being open about her feelings, always sharing the highs and lows of her life with them. But the night before her death, Emma had gone silent. No calls, no texts, just a sudden, eerie absence. Her friends would later describe feeling that something was off, that Emma had been more withdrawn lately, something she had never been before. Witnesses who had seen the couple in the days leading up to Emma's death started to come forward, some sharing stories of their growing tension. One close friend mentioned that Emma had been distant, but never once did she express fear or concern for her safety. However, a more disturbing detail emerged when a friend of Lucas came forward, claiming that Lucas had confided in him about his fears. According to the friend, Lucas was terrified that Emma was planning to leave him. She had been talking about independence, and Lucas, his jealousy now in full bloom, had begun to spiral. Investigators began to wonder, was it jealousy that drove Lucas to kill the woman he claimed to love? Or was it something deeper, something darker like control and manipulation, that finally caused the explosive confrontation? As the investigation continued, the chilling truth began to surface. Emma's social media posts, which had once been filled with joy and laughter, now seemed like distant echoes of a life that was slowly unraveling behind closed doors. Lucas's behavior had become increasingly erratic in the weeks before Emma's death. As Emma gained more followers, more attention, and more opportunities, Lucas became increasingly possessive, resentful even. He began tracking her every move. He would show up uninvited at events and accuse her of flirting with other men, even though there was no evidence to suggest anything inappropriate was going on. Fans noticed that their once playful posts had started to take on a darker tone. Lucas's possessiveness was becoming apparent. Friends and family were horrified to learn that Lucas had even started to monitor Emma's interactions online, demanding she delete certain posts and stop engaging with particular people. It became clear to those close to the couple that Lucas had been controlling in ways they hadn't recognized at first. Emma, for all her outward positivity, had been trapped in a relationship where she felt she had no escape. The final confrontation between Emma and Lucas came after another intense argument, one that had started over something trivial, a disagreement over a video Emma had posted. What seemed like a minor issue quickly escalated into something much worse. That night, Lucas snapped. According to the police report, he cornered Emma in their apartment, accusing her of disrespecting him. Emma, who had been growing tired of the constant accusations and the pressure, attempted to walk away from the argument. But Lucas wasn't having it. In a fit of rage, he physically restrained her, pinning her to the ground, and in that moment, everything escalated. The struggle turned violent, and Emma, in an attempt to break free, fought back. But Lucas, overcome by jealousy and rage, had been too strong. In the end, he took Emma's life, suffocating her in an uncontrollable fit of anger. Afterwards, Lucas, in a daze, tried to make it look like a tragic accident. But his actions and the signs left at the scene told a different story. There were no signs of remorse, only a chilling indifference to what he had just done. The truth had finally come to light. What had begun as a fairy tale romance had spiraled into a nightmare of jealousy, control, and a tragic ending that no one could have predicted. And now, the investigation was just beginning to piece together the horrifying reality that no one could have imagined. A life lost in the pursuit of perfection, and a relationship that was anything but ideal. As investigators continued to dig deeper into the case, they uncovered the chilling truth behind Emma's death. They pieced together statements from family, friends, and neighbors, and began to build a clearer picture of the volatile relationship Emma and Lucas had kept hidden from the public eye. What seemed like an accident at first was slowly revealed to be anything but. The more they learned about Lucas's behavior in the days leading up to Emma's death, the more it became clear that his jealousy had driven him to a breaking point. It wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated outburst fueled by months of manipulation and control. The key piece of evidence came when investigators discovered a series of text messages on Lucas's phone. The messages were chilling, filled with threats, accusations, and desperate pleas to Emma to stay. Lucas had sent Emma countless messages, insisting she stay loyal and accusing her of betraying him by spending time with friends and fans. One particularly disturbing text read, "If I can't have you, no one will." These messages painted a portrait of a man obsessed with maintaining control over a relationship that was slipping through his fingers. The final piece of the puzzle came when Lucas, now facing overwhelming evidence, finally confessed. It wasn't an immediate confession, but during a final round of questioning, the weight of the evidence became too much for him to deny. He admitted that the fight had escalated after Emma had hinted at wanting more space, more independence. "She was going to leave me," Lucas confessed quietly. "She told me she was done, that she wanted out. I couldn't handle it. I thought, if I couldn't keep her, I couldn't let anyone else have her." It wasn't an emotional outburst or a crime of passion in the traditional sense. It was the culmination of months of controlling behavior, jealousy, and a suffocating need to keep Emma to himself. The confession confirmed what investigators had suspected all along. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment argument gone wrong. It was premeditated. Lucas had planned for it to happen, the toxic atmosphere of the relationship finally boiling over into tragedy. Just when it seemed like the case was about to close, a final twist shocked everyone. It came in the form of a new piece of evidence, a video, one that no one had noticed until it was uncovered in the investigation. A hidden camera, placed strategically in the apartment by Lucas months before, revealed startling footage of Emma during one of their most heated arguments. As Emma tried to break free, Lucas's words became even more chilling. "You'll regret this," he whispered, almost as if he knew the ending to the story. But what no one expected was Emma's response. She wasn't just trying to escape. She had been planning to leave him all along. Emma had secretly started making plans for her future without Lucas. Plans she had kept hidden even from her closest friends. In the video, she was seen packing a bag, slipping it into the trunk of her car just days before her death. It became clear that Emma had been preparing for the moment she would finally walk away from the toxic relationship, but she never had the chance to execute her plan. The revelation of the hidden camera and Emma's quiet preparations for freedom changed everything. It wasn't just a crime of jealousy. It was the desperate act of someone who feared losing control of their own life. And in the end, that fear drove Lucas to destroy the one person who had ever truly mattered to him. What seemed like the perfect couple, the ones who had it all, ended up being the center of one of the most shocking true crime stories of the year. Emma and Lucas's love story was supposed to inspire, to be the very definition of relationship goals. But behind the charming videos, the picturesque vacations, and the couple's captivating presence on social media, a dark reality was lurking, a reality that no one saw coming. As we reflect on this tragedy, the question remains, how did it all go so wrong? Was it the pressure of their newfound fame that drove Lucas to uncontrollable jealousy? Was it the controlling behavior that silently ate away at Emma's spirit? Or was it something else entirely? Could anyone, fans, family, even close friends, have seen the signs? Emma's friends and family have since shared their regret, wondering if they could have done more, noticed the subtle changes in her behavior, or recognized the warning signs of Lucas's possessiveness before it was too late. But the truth is, sometimes the darkest secrets hide behind the brightest facades. And when the lights of social media shine too brightly, it's easy to miss what's happening in the shadows. Now, we turn it over to you. What do you think? Were there signs that fans missed along the way? Could they have prevented this tragedy? Or was Emma's fate sealed from the start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to hear more real-life mysteries, unraveling true crime stories, and stories that reveal the hidden darkness behind the scenes, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more gripping tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Because sometimes the most perfect relationships are hiding the darkest secrets.